Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Black Ops Cold War in Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the new AMP63 pistol. And I know it's been a while since I've done a pure Black Ops Cold War related in-depth video, and I have neglected this game, but I'm trying to get back into the swing of things and try to resume some normality in my life while I go through this little personal crisis of mine. And one of the best ways I can do that is just to keep doing what I've been doing for years, which is review guns in Call of Duty. And right now, the hottest thing in COD is the AMP63. It's very similar to the PM63 from previous COD games like Black Ops 1, and similar-ish to the Cap 40 from Black Ops 2, but weaker. The new AMP63 is fully automatic and can be unlocked for free via in-game challenges. I think it's 400 headshots on zombies and 20 games where you get 5 kills with a pistol in every game. If you want to take a shortcut, you can use my creator code, which is Driftor, all caps, the O is a 0, thus making this video sponsored by Activision. However, if you buy that, you can only use that particular setup, and you're still going to be limited on your customization until you unlock the full weapon. So let's take a look at the damage. When it comes to headshots, this weapon will deal 46 damage up close, decreasing down to 37 at a distance. We'll talk about the distance in just a minute. Every other region on the body, chest, stomach, legs, arms, hand, feet, groin, butthole, it's all going to be 33 to 27, so still a pretty appreciable amount of damage with a relatively small decline over range, which gives a lot of consistency to the weapon. If you add the Task Force barrel, it says it increases damage, and it truly does by 1 point at all ranges. Well, basically, it's now 47 up close, down to 39 at long ranges is the number that I kept consistently getting, but it might be a round up error, or maybe I couldn't get the target far enough away to consistently hit a headshot with this weapon. All other areas were 34 to 28, so an easy way to think about it is literally 1 extra point of damage, though oddly it doesn't seem to change your shots to kill, so I'm a little bit confused about its usefulness. The range on the weapon is 19 meters, so that's your maximum damage range where you're dealing that nice 46 or 33 damage per shot. That's similar to the other pistols, which all have really good damage drop-off ranges, but it's really good compared to SMGs and even a few assault rifles. It's kind of weird that a lot of the full automatic weapons in this game, full auto primaries, have really short ranges, and the pistols, including the PM63, outperform them, so 19 meters is a longer range than a lot of the gunfights you're going to be in Black Ops Cold War. Rate of fire is 652 rounds per minute, which is kind of fast for a fully automatic pistol. I expected this one to be more in the 450 to 400 range, but this would be normal for a submachine gun. I think this actually shoots faster than a few of the submachine guns in this game, but it feels slower. I know numerically that's the right number, but subjectively I think it feels a little bit slower because my brain wants to say Cap 40, it wants to say bullet hose, and also the kind of clinginess of the sounds I hear every shot, so it feels like there's a big gap in between my shots, even though they're not. It's actually quite fast. The akimbo rate of fire and damage appear to be identical. I'm kind of surprised by that. I thought it would be a little bit weaker akimbo, but I couldn't seem to find anything that indicates that. Now, akimbo rate of fire, that's per pistol. Of course, with 2 of them, it's doubled, or the damage is doubled, however you want to do the math about it. So after taking a look at all of that, let's talk about time to kill. The single AMP63 time to kill is 460 milliseconds, which is slower than average amongst pistols. I think it's slower than everything except for the Magnum. Not tremendously, but a little bit. However, it's also a lot slower than assault rifles and submachine guns. Pretty much every AR and SMG is going to kill faster than this. So even though it's a machine pistol, there's pretty much no range at which you're going to have a time to kill advantage with this weapon. So you're not going to be able to use it as a primary. It's going to have to be a true secondary with this kind of configuration. When you do the akimbo AMP63 time to kill, I get a 183 millisecond TTK, which is so incredibly fast. I can't believe it even maths out that way. And I will say that's a theoretical time to kill. Since you're hip firing, and unless you're in point blank, you're going to be missing. It rarely happens. It's going to be slower than that, but the akimbo time to kill is of course faster because, well, there's no seeming nerfs for akimbo. Bullet velocity is 259 meters per second, which is on the lower end of everything for Black Ops Cold War. This is pure misery, and it's a strong reminder of one of the things that I didn't like about Cold War. I understand the balance lever of having the slow bullets, but it's really frustrating that when it feels like my shots are going around corners or they're lagging before they hit people just because the velocity is so low. So bullet velocity boosting barrels are my friend on this weapon, and do keep in mind the bullets are really slow and they're really going to struggle at long ranges. Reload time's about 1.5 seconds, which is normal for most guns in Cold War. Most guns in Cold War are somewhere between about 1.3 and about 1.6 seconds, so maybe it's a little bit on the higher end of that, but still pretty much in the normal range. Without attachments, aim down sights time is a little bit slower than what I would have expected for submachine guns at 225 milliseconds, but still probably going to be snappy in general for this game. Sprint out time is 300 milliseconds, and I tested this a couple of different times in a couple of different configurations just to make sure I'm not drunk, and I kept consistently getting that answer. So sprint out times are kind of oddly slow, and my recommendation is that you would best sprint out before you round corners. I thought this would be a super fast sprint out gun so that I could sprint into enemies and shoot them and do a lot of advanced maneuvering. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and in the most of the akimbo gameplay, as you see, I will unsprint out and just kind of be walking when I round corners as much as possible, because 300 milliseconds is a very long time to wait before your bullets come out. Of course, you can change this with attachments, but just the base gives you an idea of the scale of it. When it comes to its other handling attributes, movement speed, strafe speed, sprint speed, shooting while moving while firing, and strafing while firing speeds, all of those are identical to the other pistols, which are among the fastest things in the game. You really shouldn't have any issues with those. You should be moving around pretty quick when you have these equipped, unless you put some really goofy attachments on there. And on the topic of attachments, I do have some opinions on those. That'll be coming up in a minute. The base magazine size is 15 bullets, and the biggest magazine you can put on it is 25 rounds. So in my experience, the mag size is only big enough for 1 to 2 kills before reloading. Especially at longer ranges, you might need more shots. You're going to miss a lot. The recoil is kind of goofy. This is a great place to talk about it. The recoil is not super low. It gives you about 3 shots pretty accurate, and then it starts to randomly kick to the right or left, and it can be very difficult to control. So even with a 25 round magazine, I very frequently found myself burning an entire mag just to kill one person because I was constantly fighting the recoil. So you, again, can't use this as a primary, and you can't really use it to get multi-kills very easily because you're going to run out of ammo very, very rapidly. In my opinion, I think that the AMP63 is best used akimbo. The akimbo version of this gun kills faster, it handles better, it does more of what I need it to do except for the sprint out time, and it doesn't kind of trick me. Since it's a full auto gun, I think, okay, even if it's a little weak, I can totally fight SMG users. I can challenge this guy with an assault rifle. I'm a YouTuber, I aim pretty well. And at the end of the day, I'm outclassed on bullet velocity, recoil, range, basic damage, time to kill, basically everything, and you can't really catch up. But akimbo still shreds people, so I appreciate that. When it comes to what my secondary weapons are, I still prefer the 1911 or a shotgun as a secondary for most of my classes instead of this, but I would consider running them akimbo. The task force barrel seems to be a very limited use. Perhaps I am being a bit silly here, but I don't see any reason to use it because it doesn't increase the damage enough to change your time to kill. The bonuses to your bullet velocity and range are pretty minimal, and it has some significant downsides, so I decided not to use it. I went for different attachments, which we'll get to very soon, and I do think you pretty much have to use the 25 round mags because, again, that damage is so low, the time to kill is so low, the bullet capacity is so, everything's so critical. If you don't have 25 round mags, you'll probably run out of ammo before killing one person far more frequently than you want to. Alright, time for the best class, and I'm going to recommend akimbo over single fire all the way. This is what my akimbo class looks like, and yes, I bought the variant to give myself a little head start. I like running the sound suppressor. It keeps me off the radar, and it has the least range penalty possible. It has very few penalties in general. I use a 6.1 inch reinforced heavy barrel. It gives me a little bit of effective range, a lot of bullet velocity, and the cons are pretty minimal. Your aim walking speed isn't going to matter when we do akimbo. Sprinting moving speed hurts a little bit, but the range and velocity more than make up for it. I run the 5 milliwatt laser sight to increase my hipfire accuracy significantly, and it is a godsend, and I would really not recommend running akimbo with pretty much anything else. I run the Stanag 25 round mags because it's the biggest mags I can get, and I just have to have that for both of my guns. Reload quickness is not such a big penalty, and since I can't aim down sights, the aim down sights time penalty is 0. And then of course dual wield, which gets my hipfire a little bigger, causes me to have to play the game a little differently since I can't ADS, but still works really well to boost my time to kill, and it kind of gives me a shotgun-like weapon, and that's something that I can definitely work with. When I treat this weapon like the akimbo Diamatis or like the shotguns, they're a hipfire spray weapon. When I use them with high mobility to kind of bounce around from engagement to engagement, it works much much better than when I tried to use it as an SMG replacement, or even as a true secondary. As a true secondary, I think I still prefer the regular Diamatti and the 1911 just for the sheer DPS, the time to kill, burst damage on those things, whereas with this one, I feel a little bit more consistent running around hip-firing people. That is an entirely subjective opinion here on In-Depth, but when it comes to akimbo Diamattis or akimbo AMP63s, I think I would lean on the akimbo AMP63s, especially now that the akimbo Magnums have been nerfed. Those were hilarious some number of months ago. But I would really recommend you running these akimbo and treating them like a shotgun. You want to peek corners, you want to get really close, you want to trade and then come back and trade again. You want to shoot people not paying attention. It's not going to be the best weapon to use as a true standard long-range secondary. All right, I'm rambling and repeating myself a bit. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of In-Depth. I hope that you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.